call me old man Wade.
Damn you, old man!
Wait.
Old ass man.
Shut up, old man. You smell like fart.
No, man!
Old man.
He's so old, he got a podcast on cassette.
Fuck, you're old.
Damn it, Wade.
And welcome to the Old Man Wade Show. I am your host, Old Man Wade, and back at it is my co-host, Supa Woke Hobby.
Yo,
It's the first time in a long time we've actually had a two-man pod.
it's been a grip. I missed you, as always.
Shout out to the Gentlemen's Club, and also shout out to the Ladies Lounge, who's been helping this podcast out a lot. So shout out to you guys for coming through and helping us all out. We'll get you back in here soon. I think the Ladies Lounge, they're actually supposed to be coming the end of this month.
It's all about the ladies, man.
Yo,
They smashed it last time. I'm excited. I'm excited to see what they have in store next time.
yo, legitimately, it was the best, the highest viewed and downloaded podcast I've had on SoundCloud.
I believe it.
They went in.
I believe it. Yeah.
And I love the fact that they spoke so freely, they spoke honestly, and so that's what made that podcast so great. With the Gentlemen's Club, I think it's just the chemistry we all have with each other. Like, we're all just kind of like, you know what? Fuck it, let's just do this.
Yeah. It was an interesting difference between, like, the difference that I noticed between, like, the ladies and the guys. And I was one of the guys in the show, so I'm not trying to get on us too badly. But when we're talking about emotions, right? The ladies were way more talkative. There was a lot of silence on the Gentlemen's Club podcast.
Well, it's funny.
It was interesting, yeah.
But that's the point. What's funny is, like, what's the point of the podcast is us all talking about how we don't really like to talk, like, express our emotions.
Yeah.
And I noticed there were some lulls where, like, I didn't want to say something, or you didn't want to say something, or Diddy or Greg were kind of just like, do we want to talk about this? And the ladies, they were like, nah, this is how we feel. Let's
You want to know how we feel? They can't handle how we feel.
we really can't. So let's just call it what it is.
We can't handle how we feel. That's what it is. All right. So what we got? What do we have in store for today?
Today we're gonna start. Today we're gonna talk about a couple of things. We're gonna talk about the new trailer for Marvel that came out.
Marvel was busy. Definitely.
Jessica Jones.
Venom,
and Deadpool.
Yep.
Later on, we're also gonna get into the Quincy Jones.
Quincy Meek Mill Jones. Yo, how did I not know this guy had a Twitter this whole time? I need to follow him immediately.
Oh man, like that dude. He was so great that he ended up with a Twitter hashtag called Quincy Jones Answers.
Oh, all right. I'm making a list of follows right now. All right, Quincy Jones Answers. Okay.
Yeah, I don't even know if it's a Twitter handle. I just know that people were making these random jokes about, like, how Quincy Jones would answer some things, and I got in on it. We'll talk about that when we get to the Quincy Jones part. But first off, I wanted to vent something about my frustrations with the medical issues we have here in the world, in America. Excuse me. So I'm going out for back surgery. Going out in beginning of March. I'm going out for back surgery. Initially, I was told that I needed the records for my previous back surgery before the current surgeon could even see me. Yeah. So I figured, okay, it shouldn't be that hard. Go talk to this clinic that I went to and get the notes. Unfortunately, the clinic that I went to doesn't exist anymore. So I couldn't get the hospital that performed the surgery because I couldn't get the clinic to get the notes from the clinic that the hospital I went to.
So your medical records, I'm assuming, weren't in the cloud or whatever. Like, they were just in a cabinet somewhere in this clinic.
Exactly.
That's crazy.
So my immediate reaction was, why are these things in a cabinet or anything like that? Because all the physicals and appointments I had leading up to my surgery were all taken in a computer. Yeah. And like,
thanks, Obama.
God damn it, Obama. But what kills me about it is I'm listening to these people tell me that, it's in a file and blah, blah, blah. And at my job, we're just a random security job, and even we have folders upon folders upon folders of things. Yeah. So if we wanted something about the daily logs, we have a folder for that. And sure, you have to go through a bunch of subfolders to get to that. It's still organized enough that we know how to get to and from all the, to the actual information that we need. Yeah. So my assumption was that it would just go from, all right, old man Wade file, click. Old man Wade file physicals, old man Wade file back, old man Wade file giant penis.
Now I'm picturing your doctors calling you old man Wade now. Like that's hilarious.
Government name, first name old, middle name Wade. No wait, first name old, middle name man, last name Wade.
Yeah, we'll get it. We're smart. We'll get it eventually.
So I go through all that, and it's just like I'm like jumping through hoops trying to get this information. Yeah. And then some places don't accept email; they won't send you your files via email.
Yeah.
Then some of them only want fax, and I'm like, "You guys still use fax machines?" So I was like, "Okay."
Like, first, are you? Is this like in America that this is happening?
Yeah.
Okay.
In Massachusetts, which is like the hub of like medicine in America, like you know what I mean?
Like, is it like a small Mormon clinic on a farm somewhere?
Nah, like greater Boston area. You know what I mean? So I couldn't get and then come to find out the clinic outsources this stuff to another company, which then outsourced this to another company.
Okay.
So I had to jump through 2 other hoops just to get to the initial company. So then I finally get to where I need to get to. And they're like, oh, well, we don't have the information. I'm like, oh, what the fuck? You gotta be kidding me. But he's like, so another woman calls me back and says, well, we'll just send you everything we have. I took a day off from work to go up there and deal with this stuff. Mm-hmm. Like, I didn't want to take this day off, but I was like, if I don't get this done, I'm not gonna have the surgery. And, like, my leg's getting worse. Yeah. So I'm like, all right, fine. So I took the day off of work and finally, and I ended up not even needing to go down there because a woman called me and said, hey, we can give you all this information. We found the email you sent us. We can email you over. I'm like, I thought you couldn't email to me. Because I was like, you know what? Whatever, fine. So I get the information. I set up a passcode. I set up all the stuff that needs to get done. And then literally 2 minutes after I get the email, the surgeon's office calls me and said, oh, the surgeon's just seeing your MRI. He wants you to get in here within the next week. Even without the notes. I'm like, you have got to be kidding me.
Well, it's shocking that the medical industry is a little bit confusing, isn't it? I'm surprised. Color me shocked.
For those of you who can't see it on his face, which is all of you, there's nothing but sarcasm in Supa Woke's face right now.
That's why, I don't go to doctors. I kill chickens in my kitchen. Oh, that is feeding into so many bad stereotypes.
Yeah,
all right. Yeah. Can we edit that out?
Do we edit that out?
Nah.
Alright, so I go see the doctor, and it's funny because, surgeons are busy, doctors are busy, I get it, but what's funny was, on his folder, he had circled, get him in here immediately.
It's like, luckily, you just needed back surgery.
Yeah, not like brain surgery or heart surgery or chemotherapy.
You're just in excruciating pain.
You know what I mean? I'm losing power in my legs little by little with a sharp pain in my thighs, so,
Jesus Christ.
But you know what I mean? Like, there's nothing wrong with our...
Stop getting your surgeries done at the barbershop. Oh, man. Stop doing it.
What do you mean? That's the best. What else would... Where else would I go if not for the barbershop for these days, man? Like, that seems like the end-all, be-all for all things.
Just so you guys know, old man lives his life like it's the 1800s. Always.
Yeah, man. I've gone through when they used to give birth on a tree. You know what I mean? Women had to squat, lean on a tree to do it. I remember having to ride the Brontosaurus to and from work every day.
But you still vaccinate your kids, though, right?
Absolutely.
Well, you don't have kids, but you would vaccinate yourself and your kids.
I would vaccinate the shit out of if I had a kid. It just seems to make the most sense. And I love when people go, well, it's not God's way. And it's sad that Family Guy had the best explanation for it when they go, how do you know God didn't put this scientist on this earth to create this medicine so your kids could get better?
Yeah, or, God made you a brain with the ability to think and read. I'm sorry, I know a lot of people take this back, and I know this isn't what we were planning to talk about. I know a lot of people take this up seriously, and I don't mean to offend anybody, but I personally believe, do whatever you want to yourself. Don't vaccinate yourself if you want. Just stay away from me, right? Like, whatever, you know.
Walk around being a hazmat suit.
Hopefully your parents gave you, you know, you're not limping with polio, so your parents did something good, right? But if you don't vaccinate your kids, I think that's a form of child abuse.
I agree.
Again, I apologize if I'm insulting anybody, but you really need, there's a problem, right, where people, there's nothing wrong with being ignorant, right? Like, we're all ignorant. There's a lot of things we don't know, right? But don't be confident in your ignorance, right? Like, you don't know anything about the immune system, right? You don't know anything about, you know, diseases. I know you don't, right? Like, there's not a lot of people that know that stuff. That's a select group of people, right?
Like, it's like Janie McCarthy. You know, it doesn't matter. She had this whole thing about how those shots would give kids autism. Yeah. And then a few years later, she backtracked on that and had her kids immunized.
So again, we're trying to fight blatant ignorance here, right? Yeah. And you brought up a good point. And just to give you the background on that, the research that showed a link between autism and vaccines was done by a doctor, and I believe in the UK. I don't remember his name, but you can Google all this, right?
Do your research.
Right? So you're not ignorant. For whatever reason, he lied tremendously when it came to the numbers and the data. And when it was exposed that his science was extremely faulty, he lost everything. He lost his license. He was sued. Pretty much, there was no legitimate science backing up his findings at all, right? Yeah. And there's a concept, like, I'm not trying to be too, I'm sorry. So there's a concept, whenever you're learning anything in science, right, there's a concept called correlation does not mean causation, right? Which means that just because two things seem to happen at the same time doesn't necessarily mean that those two things cause each other to happen. I hope that made sense, right? Yeah. So kids get vaccines, their shots at a certain age. It just so happens at that age, that's when many of the symptoms of autism show up, right? Yeah. Has nothing to do with the two. It's just that the only variable that's connected is the age. So when people already have this fear about autism and vaccines, right, and they tend to get their vaccines when kids start to show signs of autism, they create that link in their heads.
Well, my wife always says that one of the things that these pharmaceutical companies have to do is they have to talk about the side effects. Now, it could, like, sometimes the variables have nothing to do with the medication that they're testing. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's just, you know, if someone's lactose intolerant and they were taking a pill and it gives them diarrhea, they have to put may cause diarrhea. Yeah. Now, these symptoms absolutely should be mentioned in there, like, you know, to see if the risks outweigh the rewards. Yeah. But as you said, this former doctor, had a personal agenda. And don't get me wrong, we all have agendas. I don't care who you are, whether you're left, right, in between, gray area, yellow area, whatever. We all have our agendas. Yeah. So it doesn't necessarily make it good or bad, but when you're doing something like, when you're in a field where you affect millions, if not billions of people, you have to set aside your agenda and actually think about what's more important, my agenda or the cause. Like the old phrase goes, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. True.
And I think and I think everybody thinks that way. Everybody has this inherent knowledge that everybody around you has an agenda, right? And we inherently, it's hard for us to trust people we don't know, right? Especially when it comes to our kids. So I understand the fear. I don't understand it. I'm not a mom. I'm not a dad. I really don't. But I'm pretty sure that it's an intense feeling when like a small human being is under your care, right? So that makes a lot of sense. And it makes sense that people don't see polio and all these other diseases, that whooping cough, that ravished, that killed a lot of kids, right? Before these vaccines came out. So you don't even see that. And then all you really hear about are are these side effects, right? So the balance becomes like the side effects seem a lot more dangerous than the things that these vaccines are supposed to be stopping.
Well,
yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say that, but to your point, and you talked about like people in their ignorance. You brought up a great point that at some point, you have to actually do your research. You have to do your Googles.
Yeah.
Because it's when I go and I start writing an article, I have to go back and I have to go read the source material.
Yeah.
Because the last thing I want is to steer somebody wrong.
Yeah.
And I also don't want the backlash of the angry nerd. But you have to do your research on something. That's on a smaller level, a much smaller level. If you're a parent and what you do affects this kid for the rest of their life, it depends. It's literally life threatening.
Yeah.
You have to do your due diligence to actually do the research on things like that.
You have to, you have to, and honestly, not everybody has the time to do that. It's shockingly easy to find information on vaccines that's legitimate from the CDC, the World Health Organization. Any family members you may have that are from countries that don't have vaccines, right? Like, but at the same time, not everybody, people aren't going to always take the time. And that's why we have experts, and I think that we need to start remembering that we have to trust some experts, doctors, things like that. Like I'm sorry, it sounds
very conformist,
and I'm not really that person. But you know what? If you broke a bone, where are you gonna go?
Yeah, that's back to our point about when we talk about mental health. Like if you break a bone, you go to a doctor. If you have mental issues, you go see a therapist. Yeah. But it's funny because I'm one of those people. I don't get flu shots. I don't. I just flat out I don't. The last couple times I got them, I got really sick. Yeah. Did one have to do with the other? Probably not. Yeah. But in my ignorant brain, I'm like, fuck it, I'm not gonna do it. Yeah. And it can be psychosomatic because I haven't gotten the flu since I stopped getting the flu shot. Yeah. I make the joke that I haven't gotten sick because I started drinking whiskey. Yeah. And whiskey kills everything. Like that's just that.
That's science, folks.
Yeah, science. Whiskey kills everything.
Disclaimer. That's not science.
Again, 1,000 years old, walked through a saloon, got sick, take a shot of whiskey, go out, kill someone in 10 paces with a 6-shooter. So yeah, that's just it's just what you do. But like you know what I mean. But this only affects me. Yeah. Like you know what I mean. Like I'm not like if I get the flu, I have the option to just stay. I have the option of calling out sick and staying home, and not infecting everybody else. Yeah. I would probably get my kid vaccinated if I ever had a kid. Or excuse me, if me and my wife decided to have a kid, we've talked about it. We get it vaccinated. We see the benefits in that. Yeah. So, but that's teach their own. All right. So what we're gonna do now? Take a little break. And we'll come back and we're going to discuss the Marvel previews. And then after that, we'll get to Mr. What'd you call him? Quincy
Meat Mill Jones.
We'll be right
Spilling
back.
tea.
You know what? You just made the list!
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. So like I said, we're going to get right into the Marvel previews. For those of you who don't know, earlier this week, we were gifted with 3 Marvel previews. Well, 2 Marvel previews and a teaser this week.
I'd like to thank Stan Lee for the gifts he gave us this week.
So let's start with Jessica Jones since you just watched the preview just now. For those of you who don't know, Jessica Jones comes out on International Women's Day. So Ben, watch your buttholes.
Smart, Marvel. Smart.
And it's funny because it's actually a Thursday as opposed to a Friday.
What are they trying to say? Is there a deeper meaning to that?
Oh, what, International Women's Day?
Yeah,
they knew what they did. I think, if I'm not mistaken, all the directors are actually women. They have
really?
Different female directors doing each episode of Jessica Jones.
So, would you consider that exploitative of the movement, or I mean, it's not our movement necessarily, but
I think so. But is that a bad thing?
No, I mean Black Panther came out on Black History Month, so hey, boom.
Right during the President's Day vacation, which I'm not even going to talk about that.
So are you excited? Are you given the recent track record of Marvel Netflix shows? How excited has this trailer made you for Jessica Jones?
I'm learning to curve my enthusiasm when it comes to the Netflix shows.
Yeah.
Because with Daredevil, I had no expectations for it at all. You know what I mean? I'm kind of a fan of the character, but I wasn't like overwhelmed by the cast.
Yeah.
And then when I saw seasons 1 and 2, I was like, oh my god, this was amazing. I had high hopes for Luke Cage, and while Luke was great, Cottonmouth.
Rest in peace, Luke Cage.
Oh no, if I keep saying that, it's not the TV show that was canceled. It was the comic book that was
What?
canceled. It was a comic book that was canceled.
Internet! You lied to me once again.
Unless I'm missing something. If I'm not mistaken, it was the.
Well, it didn't make sense to me that they would cancel it because it's not like Netflix even cares about ratings. Like it doesn't, and it was definitely not the weakest of the Netflix shows.
Absolutely not. Yeah, Luke Cage season 2 is still a thing.
Okay.
But what was canceled was the.
You just brought so much joy back into my life.
Yeah, it was funny because you're not the first person to say that to me, and I actually wrote an article about it. They were like, "I'm just so sad Luke Cage season 2 was canceled." I'm like, no, it wasn't the TV show; it was the comic book that was canceled.
Well, the Luke Cage series, the Luke Cage comic book has a history of being, canceled and brought back.
Yeah, but
So
I think a lot of that has to do with the writing and the passion that you might have for a character. I actually got to a conversation. Shout out to my boy Dennis, who actually proposed a question that we'll get into later. When we discussed Black Panther, but he was asking me about would this movie be as good if they didn't have a black director. You know what I mean? And I got to that a little bit later, but I'll get into his question when we actually discuss Black Panther. But
that's a good question. That's a very good question, actually.
But to Jessica Jones, I like Jessica Jones. I think Kristen Ritter, I have my doubts about her because she doesn't physically look like Jessica Jones, but she has all like the attitude that goes with the character, and she was great. She was a great Jessica Jones, like in terms of like just the attitude, the wit, the mannerisms, like you know what I mean. Everything about her like screamed Jessica Jones. Like when she was drunk in a bar, it looks like what you would see from Jessica Jones in a bar. When she's being a smartass, it looks like her being a smartass. And the same thing goes for her when she's dealing with these really traumatic issues. Like at the end of Jessica Jones season 1, you've seen it, right?
Yeah, of course.
It's been years, so who cares about spoilers at this point? At the end of the show, when Luke Cage leaves, and she's sitting there like, distraught, you're like, oh crap, this, you know what I mean? This just happened. So, with that being said, the new trailer that I saw gave me a lot of hope because one of the things I wanted to see was her origin story. And I was wondering how they were going to handle that because it was actually a Stark Industries truck that caused her family to get into that accident. Yeah. And one of the first things they show you is the actual crash site from when she gained her powers.
So, wasn't it? So they're retcooning it a bit, right? Because wasn't it a chemical spill that gave her powers, or am I making that up?
It wasn't. Apparently, this happened when Galactus was coming down trying to make the Empire State Building a toothpick.
Yeah.
And her family was on a road trip. Stark Industries was going one way. Jessica was arguing with her brother. Her father turned around and said something and caused the accident. Yeah. So I guess the chemicals with the Stark Industries stuff gave her the powers. Yeah. According to what we see from the preview, she was dead and they brought her back to life and she got powers like that.
So that brings up, especially in the context of the Marvel Universe, or at least that section of the Marvel Universe, it brings up so many questions because I know in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., they brought Coulson back from the dead. And
that's what was
Kree blood.
Yeah.
Right? Or was it Kree blood?
It
was Kree blood. So I'm always thinking about ways that Marvel can
connect it all
together. And so things like that popped in my head. So I'm excited. I'm excited to see what they can do with changing it up a bit. And based on what you said about her original origin story,
which is fairly new. She didn't pop around, if I'm not mistaken, until early 2000s.
Yeah, so here's the thing. that's what I like about her character. She's a normal girl. She gets these powers, right? And as a quote unquote superhero, because she
dabbled for a little while.
Yeah.
Didn't think she was good at it, and then stopped.
Yeah, and it's not that like she. I think she'd be an awesome superhero, right?
Yeah.
But what Marvel did, the direction they took was like, what if a normal person that just wants to live a normal life got these superpowers? Like, she just wants to live a normal life. You know, there's this pervasive feeling of like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, it's almost like how society treats women, right? Like, it kind of like tells them what they're gonna do, right? And I think Jessica Jones is like, no, I'm gonna do what I want to do.
Well, why don't you want to be a superhero? What happened to you be a superhero? Why'd you stop being a superhero? And she's just like, I don't talk about it.
Exactly.
And I loved it. I love the fact that whenever they asked her, she was just like, I don't talk about it. I just stopped. I don't want to do it anymore. Like, why do you need any more explanation than that other than I just didn't want to?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? If you don't know someone, why do I need to get into the deep reasoning for why I stopped doing something?
Yeah.
I don't know you, so fuck you. I don't want to do it. And I love the fact that she does it with such an attitude. Mm-hmm. So when she's talking to a cop in the first issue, and they were saying something to her, and the cop's partner was like, "Well, you started it." Mm. You know what I mean? So.
And again, I'm still waiting for, spoiler alert, Luke Cage, Jessica Jones having a little baby. I hope that happens.
It looks like it. I also love what they did. You've seen the Defenders, right?
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
I love the fact that they pulled a, you know what, I'm Luke Cage, I'm over it, we don't even need to discuss it type of thing.
Yeah.
Because honestly, I was wondering how they would approach everything that happened with her like essentially causing the death of his wife.
Yeah.
And I loved it that he was just like, I get it. You know what I mean?
It wasn't her fault, Yeah,
and they just moved on.
Yeah.
I love that about it. I'm hoping that we do get Danielle Cage. I'm hoping that we get more of their relationship.
I think for that to work, I think Defenders is going to have to become successful because that dynamic is, I think, going to have to play against a number of characters.
I honestly don't even think they even need to do the Defenders because the new Defenders comic book has been really good. Mm-hmm. It's essentially the same. It is. It's the same Defenders characters: Iron Fist, Daredevil, Luke Cage, Jessica Jones. But the Luke Cage, Jessica Jones dynamic doesn't need Daredevil or Iron Fist. Yeah. They're just them. But I also love the fact that you could have a Jessica Jones series with Luke Cage popping in and out, just like you could have a Luke Cage series with Jessica Jones popping in and out. So they could still be together, but still be a separate entity. Yeah. So I love that. I love that about their characters. Like, they're both strong enough characters to maintain their own thing. So
before we move away from Jessica Jones, Kilgrave, right, the Purple Man.
Oh, he's alive.
Yeah, he's probably the creepiest villain I've like.
Oh, he's so
in
much
Marvel.
He's so much worse in the comic books.
Yeah, I know, but the way that George Tennant, I believe that's his name.
Yes, I believe so.
The way he translated that character, like, it was just, before you even saw him, there was like this foreboding, like, I just can't wait for this show. This Jessica Jones might be my favorite Marvel series on Netflix, to be honest with you.
I loved Jessica Jones, but Jessica Jones and Luke Cage suffered from the same thing, and they had this weird 2 or 3 episodes worth of Luke Cage, 4 or 5 episode lull, where it kind of took away the momentum of everything that was going on. There was like maybe 2 episodes of Jessica Jones that were kind of like, but it picked right back up towards the end of it. With Luke Cage, there was about a good 4 episodes where I'm like, wow, this is not that good. And then that final fight scene with him and Diamondback was just bad. But then I find out that the reason that they killed Cottonmouth was because the actor went to go film Moonlight.
Oh, okay.
So they had to kill him. And it kind of made me sad because I loved, and I've said this on the show before, I loved the dynamic between Luke Cage and Cottonmouth. Yeah. Because Luke couldn't just punch Cottonmouth. He couldn't, like, it was, Luke kills Cottonmouth, even though everyone knows he's a bad guy. It's still a super strong guy beating up on some smaller, weaker character with no powers.
Yeah. And he still, in Cottonmouth, still had members of the community, backing him.
Exactly.
It was a complicated story, and then they switched it up to a more traditional comic book bad guy.
Which even then, like the internet,
Surprise!
And I love the fact that he had to actually outsmart Cottonmouth.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, so I love that. I really enjoy it when these characters have to go, when they have to take a left turn with their powers. Like watching Beast fight, I always think it's cool because like, you forget Beast is actually a beast.
He's a serious beast.
Like he can fight. He's vicious when he gets into it. But he doesn't like who he is when he does that, so he has to keep it restrained. And people forget that Wolverine and Deadpool, despite all their amazing fighting prowess, they're actually profoundly tactical. Like, you know what I mean? Like, watching Deadpool set things up little by little to solve a problem is great. Yeah. Watching Wolverine set things in motion instead of having to just claw his way through stuff is great. Like,
let's wait, hold on. Let's not get too ahead of ourselves with the whole Deadpool tactical thing. He's tactical at times, but sometimes some randomness going on in those plans. He's like a cartoon character. What's
the phrase? A lot of truth is said in jest.
Very true.
There's a quote he has in Cable and Deadpool. He goes, "Playing the idiot is all fun and games, but you know when it stops being a yuck fest? When people start believing that's who you really are."
He really is crazy though.
Oh, but that's the thing. Like you embrace the crazy, you embrace who you are, and use it to your advantage.
Very true.
But back to Jessica Jones. I'm excited.
Yeah.
And to your question about them, are they exploiting the feminist movement? Probably. But I don't think that's a bad thing, though.
Yeah.
I think that they actually have the minds of women creating a female, working with a female character.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You have to actually care about either the character or the movement to really make a really good character. And I think that's kind of one of the reasons why a lot of these comic book characters, a lot of these comic series fail, is because just because you have Stephen King may not be able to write an X-Men book.
Yeah. That would be interesting though.
It would be, but but would it work? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like just because something like I guess the movie he did with Idris Elba, the
Dark Tower. I was so disappointed.
I've heard.
Ugh.
But you know what I mean? But from what I was told, like if you don't know the character, then you'll like the movie.
Yeah.
But if you don't know the character, why would you go see the movie?
Well, they didn't even focus on the character. It was. We could talk about that on the show.
I'll watch it. And get to that. You got anything else on Jessica Jones?
No, just excited to watch it. You know.
Okay, so when that comes out, after that comes out, we'll do a pod on that.
Yep.
So next up, we have the Venom teaser. Let me not say trailer; it was a Venom teaser.
Old man's favorite character of all time.
Let me just say that I have since retracted my opinion on Venom.
Really? This is a shock.
I still think the Venom is an overrated character. I still feel like he's an overrated character. But what I will say is Eddie Brock is a great character.
Yes.
And
thank you.
So I've said it a million times on the post. If you go back to
you did. Yeah.
I think the problem was calling it Venom. But there's a gift and a curse with calling it Venom. If you call it Venom, people automatically know the character. They know who Venom is. They know the teeth, the tongue, the black suit, and the dope emblem on his chest.
Yeah.
But for me, I'm wondering how it would have been perceived if it was just called like Brock, or if it was called Eddie Brock, or just Eddie. Like, you know what I mean? And then eventually you get this thing where in one of the trailers leading up to the movie, you see the suit, or form, the symbiote attached to him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So Tom Hardy's great. Despite how I may feel about Mad Max, Tom Hardy is great. People hated him as Bane. I thought Bane
he was the best thing about the Batman trilogy other than Heath Ledger, in my opinion.
James Gordon.
Yeah, he was. You're right.
James Gordon was great, and I also thought Michael Caine was great.
Yeah, true, but he played typical,
I've said it before. Those movies didn't even need Batman.
They did not. No. They didn't need Batman. They didn't need him, but they wanted him. Wait, did I say that wrong?
But the trailer also kind of furthers my point. When you're watching the trailer and you're like, what am I watching? Like, excuse me, when you're watching the teaser, you have no idea what you're watching. And like the teaser is supposed to get you excited for the trailer, which is supposed to get you excited for the movie.
So we have trailers for trailers now.
Yes.
And then we have mini trailers within trailers introducing the trailer.
Yep.
Fuck this world. But anyways, go ahead.
It's Inception now. But I'm watching this trailer and I'm trying to get excited about it, but I watch this teaser, I'm trying to get excited about it. But they didn't really tease anything until the very end where you see this black ooze. But unless you know that Venom comes from a symbiote, which is the black ooze, you didn't do anything.
Well, I think a lot more people know the basics of Venom's backstory. That he is a symbiote. And I think even further, I think a lot of people associate Venom with starting with Spider-Man for two reasons in particular. The Spider-Man animated show on Fox from the late 90s, early 2000s, a lot of people watch that show. A lot of people get their Spider-Man knowledge from that show. And then Spider-Man 3.
That never happened.
I know. So in the universe that it did happen.
Friend of the show, Fletcher, instead of Betsy called it "I'm Sorry 3." Every 2 seconds, Topher Grace, I'm sorry.
Sam Raimi. So apparently that movie was bad because of Venom, right? So Venom wasn't supposed to be a character. It was really supposed to be Spider-Man, Sandman.
Yeah.
What to call him?
Flip Marko.
Yeah, Flip Marko. And some other, some dynamics outside of that, the villain hero situation. But the studio really wanted Venom, so he pretty much slapped it on, like in the middle of production or something. I don't know. I think that's how the story goes. But I think people know a good amount about Venom. So the trailer, I think, did what it had to do. I just think that Marvel's they can't do the original Venom origin story.
No,
like it's not going to be.
You know what? I think they could, but the problem is Sony is still holding the rights to a lot of those characters, and the problem with that is, and I think isn't
Sony doing this though? So this is part of the Spider-Verse, not MCU, I believe. Right?
Yes, exactly. So my and there's been rumors that the kid who's playing Spider-Man was on set, so there's that. So who knows exactly what's going on? I mean, look, they held Terry Crews for so long without us knowing.
That is crazy. Can't wait to get him back. Yeah. Go ahead.
So my biggest thing about this is Marvel did something that was unprecedented.
Yeah.
They took a character, Iron Man. They did a movie. No one had any idea what was going on. Yeah. And then at the end of the movie, Nick Fury comes out and pretty much lets us know we're getting an Avengers movie.
10 years ago.
So we had to sit through, and it's like the patience it took for us to sit through Iron Man, Thor, Captain America, Iron Man 2, just to get to Avengers. So these are the things.
Iron Man 3 didn't happen either.
We can debate about that. I love that movie, but the ending was god awful. So in order to do a Venom story properly, you have to incorporate Spider-Man. And as much as I love Miles Morales, you can't tell a Miles Morales story without a Peter Parker story.
Well, this is where I disagree with you, old man.
We can talk about. We can get into that.
All right.
So we get into that, and you need that. It just makes sense for Venom to have this anger towards the world, on top of what I think his father beat him, like he was constantly rejected in school, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then on top of that, he gets beat up by Peter Parker.
Yeah.
He gets beat up by Peter Parker. The suit. Peter Parker rejects the suit. The suit then jumps into Eddie Brock, who already has his hatred for Peter Parker, who has his hatred for the world. Get all this anger within each other, which puts Venom in your system. Boom, character. It's kind of hard to tell tell a story about a character without the root of them.
Yeah.
It's like telling a Wolverine story without Weapon X. It's like telling a Superman story without getting into Krypton.
A Deadpool with a sewed-up mouth.
That never happened. So there's a lot of that didn't happen moments.
There was a lot of dark ages in comic books.
We're not even going to get to the first Punisher movie with Dolph Lundgren.
That was great. That was, the peak of 80s cinema. Was it the 80s or early 90s?
It was early 90s. Or the Nick Fury movie with David Hasselhoff.
But it was David Hasselhoff, though.
I refused to watch it. I got 10 minutes into that movie. I was at Diddy's house. And after 10 minutes of that movie, I got up and I cut his DVD player off. I was like, no.
Fun fact, he did so bad in that movie, he turned Nick Fury black. Disclaimer, that's not a fact.
Oh, man. That was good. But yeah, so I want this movie to succeed. I want this to be an Eddie Brock movie.
Yeah. I
want them to really dive into like all his insecurities and really dive into what makes him this like angry, venomous, pardon the pun, character.
But it seems to me like that. So Eddie Brock is clearly not a high school student in this movie.
No.
Right? Spider-Man is a high school student currently.
Yes.
So it wouldn't make sense to me within the context of the movie to have that exact dynamic, right? And I think,
I mean, I get it because if you see this grown ass man with these powers, who's obviously stronger than Peter Parker and stronger than Spider-Man, and then this high school student overcomes this bully. Yeah, that's an underlying message in the story is that you can rise up and you can be stronger than these people who want to bully you. Yeah. So I think it could work.
It could, but I seriously doubt they're gonna go that route. Like I think we're gonna have to do like I'm poor, so like a $4 bet.
You can afford a $4 bet? I can't.
I was planning on writing a check.
I'm 1,000 years old and I don't even have checks. Alright, so let's get to the coup de grace. The Deadpool trailer. An actual trailer. A beautiful trailer. Yeah. A trailer full of fourth wall breaks. Yeah, he made jokes about Justice League and the mustache. The CGI mustache. He made jokes about Thanos, but Josh Brolin being Thanos.
Which I didn't click in my head at all until I saw the trailer. Like it should have. Like there's no reason why. Yeah. Like I knew it was the Cable, but I just didn't connect the two things. Like Thanos and Cable being played by the same guy.
He made Infinity Stones jokes and referenced them to his dick. He made a Toy Story reference. It was absolutely glorious. Everything about that trailer was glorious. And it is funny because I had no worry about Josh Brolin playing Cable because I like Josh Brolin. I loved him in what's the movie, the revenge movie he was in with Spike Lee? Old Boy. Yep. Loved him in Old Boy.
Very good movie.
People forget that he was the older brother in Goonies.
Really?
Yeah. He was the one they put the exercise machine on him and they tied him to the couch.
He was always a tough guy.
Yeah, he was great in Men in Black 3.
Yep.
So I was like, I had no doubt that he was going to be great in this movie, but actually seeing him as Cable, I'm like, holy shit, he's good.
And so that trailer played me because I like looking at little Easter eggs inside the trailer. So I tend to pause and rewind a lot, right? Yeah. So the trailer's starting, and the first thing I noticed is that this seems like a very serious trailer for Deadpool. This makes no sense, right? And then it's continuing, and then you see his arm, and it's still. I'm like, wait, why does his arm look like that? Like I'm thinking, because it's like that's not Cable's arm. Yeah. And then of course Deadpool's gonna come out like Come on, guys.
What the shit?
You gonna get a CG budget? Like,
it's not exactly a mustache. I was like, oh shit.
so what did you think? So Domino, we got our first look at Domino.
We got our first look at Domino. We got our first look at And see, that's the thing. So all we know is
who's Terry Crews gonna be?
All right. So there's theories on that. Nerdist actually did Nerdist actually just did a piece on that where they took bets on who each character was. Now, the rumor is the running guess is that he's playing G.W. Bridge.
Okay.
And now G.W. Bridge was a member of S.H.I.E.L.D., but technically they can't call it
S.H.I.E.L.D. doesn't exist.
But in the first Deadpool movie, as Nerdist points out, there was a helicarrier at the end of S.H.I.E.L.D., at the end of Deadpool 2. Well, it's not. It was a helicarrier. It was a quote-unquote helicarrier.
Yeah.
So there's that. Now, my theory is that he's Hammer.
Okay.
Hammer could walk. He was a fully functional person, and then on a mission, he was paralyzed. So my thinking is, and I actually wrote this in an article for Bam Smack Pow, that what better way to get people's emotions going than watching Terry Crews get paralyzed?
And he would somehow make that seem funny or slapstick.
Funny or slapstick, or even, like, we've seen him, like, show, his range of character isn't amazing, but when he was in the Expendables, he showed a range of, like, pain. So he can pull off pain.
I just want you to know, in the Expendables, there are exactly two ranges in that entire movie.
Anger and comedy?
Anger and pain. So...
and when you're angry, you're in pain.
Exactly.
So there's
and they're all like 50 years old, so there's a lot of pain. Angry.
No, Terry Crews is 44. Sylvester's like 142. But yeah, so we don't know who Terry Crews is. There's somebody directly behind.
I heard the rumor, before we get off of that, I heard a rumor that he might be Bishop.
That's actually a cool one.
Yeah.
It's another time traveling guy who's owned by Fox. I mean, I have no problem with that at all either. That would be cool. The person behind Terry Crews had this helmet on his head, kind of like not really a helmet, but just like a guard protecting like the side of his face that resembled, as Laveau pointed out, Shatterstar. And then I guess the Nerdist points out that there's a scene in the previews where someone's pulling out a double sword. The double sword is Shatterstar's thing. So shout out to Diddy for pointing that out.
Shatterstar was one of my favorite Marvel toys as a kid. That double sword was the shit. It was not practical at all. So just picture this: a sword with two blades facing in the same direction, kind of like a fork with two prongs. Like, it makes no sense.
I guess that if someone's swinging down at you, you put the sword in between the two prongs. You kind of twist it out of their hand.
Okay, yeah.
So all right. Fun fact.
Comic book martial arts always make sense in real life.
Fun fact. Did you know he's bisexual?
Did not know that.
In the X Factor comic book, he had a relationship with Richter.
You know, there are a lot of... Marvel is groundbreaking in the way they portray the characters, right? Yeah. There's a lot of gay, bisexual characters.
But the thing I like about it is, right? Like, it's not forced.
Yeah.
Like, I can't stand
it's natural.
Yeah. So it was funny because in one of the earlier issues, Matrix is having a conversation with Richter. Yeah. And he said something to the effect of, God knows I wouldn't want to make Shatterstar jealous. And Maverick like spits out his beer. And he goes, I was joking, not about the guy thing, but I was making a joke about something else. So later on, Shatterstar pops up. And the first thing Shatterstar does when he gets back into his right mind is he kisses Richter. And Richter kisses him back. And I was like, oh, okay. Because they had been making jokes about it. And then I'm pretty sure if you go back and read the old X Factor comic book, because the same person who wrote those, the same person who wrote these. No, see, the X-Force comic books where Shatterstar and Richter were together. I don't think Peter David wrote that. But there was some type of, like, there was a whole...
Shatterstar was X-Force comics, right?
Yeah, so there was no, I don't know if there was a homoerotic relationship or even close to it, but the way they put them together made sense. And the way they furthered their relationship made sense. It wasn't just, oh, hey, he's gay, and that's just the end of that. I'm like, all right, they did it tactfully. It wasn't forced. Like when Iceman came out, it made sense.
Yeah.
Like he could never really hold a relationship. He always seemed uncomfortable about everything.
Yep.
And then like
somebody that's uncomfortable in his own skin, like being forced to be something that he's not.
Yeah, because he feels that like this is what he was supposed to be.
Yeah.
So him coming out, I was like, oh, okay, this actually this makes
seems,
sense.
and it's crazy because the character even seemed happier, like more stable with his powers. Like it's good stuff.
So so it could be Shatterstar, standing behind him. Behind Domino was some other random character, I guess, who spit out acid through their body. It was in an X-Force comic book, but he died the same issue. And I'm like, why would they do that? But then Nerdist goes, who wouldn't put it past a Deadpool thing to have a guy just to be killed within like the first 5 minutes of seeing him?
The guy with awesome powers just gets murdered instantly.
Exactly. It would be hilarious. He'd be like, oh, didn't see that coming.
And he'd make a joke about the budget, like, oh, we didn't have enough money for his
exactly.
or something.
Now, something else apparently behind this was they went deep on this. So behind all of them was a 5th character.
Now keep in mind, I just want to add the context to this conversation. We're spending with past 5 minutes breaking down one still, not even a second of a trailer of a movie that didn't even come out yet.
Yeah, but
this makes me excited about Deadpool.
Well, Deadpool's marketing has always been a step above everyone else's because what they did was take a character that only hardcore comic book characters, the internet people knew about, and they said, okay, they did the trailer to make it look like it was this romantic movie, and it was like Deadpool, love never dies.
Yep.
They do this whole thing with
the Thanksgiving picture.
The Thanksgiving picture.
Awesome.
So they do all this stuff to get people who have no idea who Deadpool is to get them invested in this movie.
Yep.
They're encompassing everybody on this, and it's smart. And I'm pretty sure come May, what's May? Memorial Day?
I want to say yes, but I don't know.
So Memorial Day, there will be another Deadpool trailer involving Memorial Day, or some type of marketing involving Memorial Day, because the marketing team is genius.
Yeah. Now,
there was one more character that I didn't even notice that was in there, and it's this somebody, I guess, with an all-white leg, I guess, or whatever, or all-white pant. Phantom X.
I gotta look this one up.
Phantom X is a bad motherfucker. He another weapon. I don't think he was Weapon X. I think he was Weapon Plus. Or maybe it was. It doesn't matter. But he's got he has an external nervous system. So he has a plane, a spaceship that's an extension of his nervous system.
Really?
They have a mental link. He has he has a bit of telepathy where he can communicate with people, but he can also make people see things that aren't there. So there's that. He's also a great fighter. He's also
Charlie Cluster.
Yes. He's a really good character. I suggest everyone look him up. So with that, this is what we got just from them alone. Just like you said, from less than a second of footage, we just had a 5-10 minute conversation about who's who. And
that's not uncommon for Deadpool. Ryan Reynolds and the team around Deadpool, I respect so much for what they do. And it just a connection between Deadpool and Venom, right? So Deadpool is a fourth wall breaking character, right? Cable is an Omega level mutant that can alter reality.
Once upon a time, he was one of the, if not the strongest telepath in the world. I think it was him, Xavier, or Xavier him.
Well, whenever Cable shows up, some crazy shit's about to pop off. You know that's some crazy shit's gonna some crazy stuff's gonna happen. And then Venom, his character, the way Marvel portrayed him for a while, he was kind of an intergalactic thing. He was kind of like Guardians of the Galaxy.
Well, that's more a recent thing though, with him being a Guardians of the Galaxy thing.
But I'm just saying that's a possible, not the Guardians of the Galaxy, obviously, but focusing more on the symbiote and the alien nature of the symbiote. Traveling off planet, things like that, right?
Yeah.
So all these things bring into my mind avenues in which the Marvel universes can integrate, right?
Yeah.
So I've been thinking about like how will Marvel Studios integrate X-Men? How they integrate Deadpool? How they integrate, all these characters, and there's gonna have to be some cosmic level event, I think, for that to happen. You
mean like a reality stone gem?
Exactly. So shit like this stuff gets me excited.
My dream would be that like at the end of the to conclusion Infinity War, which would be I think Infinity War 2, the post scene would be like Hugh Jackman walking out of some like random like portal going, this smells funny.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And he pops his claws.
Yeah.
And, he pops his claws and goes, this smells funny. And then it just ends.
Yeah.
And but the reports are that we're not going to get an X-Men MCU thing for a while though.
Yeah.
Just because it's, unlike DC, they don't want to rush things.
Yeah.
So I think it's smart that they wouldn't immediately even hint at us getting Avengers versus X-Men.
Well, they won't, but I will say this. My dream scenario for this happening will be like a good Fantastic Four movie where Reed Richards' experiment ends in like the merger of universes. That's where I'm going. That's my key moment right there.
You would just read Infinity War, Secret Wars, that's why.
Exactly.
And before we move on, we're going to take a break in a second just so we can wrap this up with the Quincy Jones talk, too, Quincy Meek Mills Jones. I just want to say that it would be nice just to get a Fantastic Four movie that wasn't just about Doctor Doom, especially considering they have so many great characters. But that's another story for another time. We can really break that down and all that other stuff.
I just say they need to learn the difference between an antagonist and a foil. Doctor Doom is a foil.
Yeah, I also don't think a lot of the people who are doing that actually even know the difference between an antagonist and a protagonist. All right, so we're going to take a break, and we'll have our final segment, and we will be right back.
Fuck, you're old.
And welcome back. The final segment of the Old Man Wade Show. First time we've actually done a segment kind of show. Hopefully this will work out. Shout out to Javi for suggesting some changes.
I've been here enough. Try to, stretch out, get comfortable.
So, fun fact. Did you know that Michael Jackson stole a lot of stuff?
I'm going to be real with you. Stealing and Michael Jackson were two things that I never put together. Till, again, Quincy Meek Mill Jones came out, just spilled all the tea. Jesus Christ. So, apparently, Michael Jackson's a thief. The Beatles are horrible musicians. Richard Pryor had sex with Marlon Brando.
I don't know if...
That's fucking crazy.
I don't know if he had sex with Marlon Brando or if Marlon Brando had sex with him.
Apparently, Marlon Brando had sex with everything.
What was it? He'd fuck a mailbox if he could?
What the hell? And, I'm reading this stuff, and... So, do you believe it? That's the question. Do you believe? What do you believe? How do we break this down?
All right. First off, let me say this. I don't care.
Yeah. Okay.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
So I hear this stuff and it's like, Marlon Brando had sex with Richard Pryor, or vice versa, and he was just fucking stuff and blah blah. My thing about it is, my initial reaction when I heard this was, these guys are dead.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Whether they were gay or not is irrelevant. If they wanted, I guess apparently Richard Pryor was like a notorious freak. Like that was just who he was. Like he's gone on stage talking about sucking dick. So
and he did some hard drugs, and you do a lot.
Yeah, he's actually stated that he sucked the dick for drugs. So it's nothing new. But my thing about it is, Richard Pryor, he's fair game. His life was an open book.
Yeah. But
we don't know if we don't know if Marlon Brando one of these secrets out. We don't know if James Baldwin. Is James Baldwin still alive?
I don't think so.
We don't know if James Baldwin.
I could always Google search that.
We don't know. You know what I mean? Even if he isn't, we don't know if James Baldwin won these secrets out, or his family won. You know what I mean? I don't really care enough to really have an opinion on it.
Yeah.
Whether I believe it's true or not. did skim through the article. I did have a bunch of holy shit moments. What's going on?
So I actually read it, and I didn't mean to read the whole thing. I actually thought it was a video, and then I saw like all these words, and I'm just like, oh my god. But I started reading it, and some of the stuff he was talking about kind of spoke to me a little bit. I'm not talking about like the conspiracy, like he said that Chicago mobsters killed John F. Kennedy.
I don't believe in the mob. Let's just get that out there right now.
You don't believe in the mob?
Nope, they scared the shit out of me, so let's just move on.
Okay, alright. That's one way to deal with things.
Stick your head in the dirt.
So, I'm not a musician, so I can't get into what he said about music, but the technical, because he got into the technicalities about making music, how much this new generation sucks. He kind of sounded like an old dude with a lot of knowledge. But I don't have any knowledge on that, so I can't comment on it. But things he was saying about like Jimi Hendrix, how Jimi Hendrix was intimidated by a lot of artists back then, right? Or how the Beatles sucked as musicians. Like these are things I didn't know, and I think they show a part of. Okay, so reality shows expose us to what we believe is the truth behind celebrity, right? I don't really watch hip hop house husbands. I don't really know.
It's a waste of my time,
right? But it seems manufactured. It doesn't really seem that real. But with this interview with Quincy Jones, it seems authentic. It seems like somebody that, he was there. He was on top of the world. This dude's on boats with the CEO of Microsoft, listening to Stevie Wonder, right? Like he was up there. He knows a lot, and it sounds like somebody that's gotten to a point where he's like, you know what? You ask me a question, I'll tell you no lie. Unless it's about Bill Cosby. He was quiet about that.
It's probably, you know what I mean? Like they're just certain, like maybe it's family secrets, or maybe he has some things going on there that he don't want revealed. So my but for those of you guys who don't know, and you can actually do your Googles on this, Quincy Jones had his hands in a lot.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? It wasn't just music. If I'm not mistaken, he was one of the, I think Quincy Jones was responsible for Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Yeah, he shows, and the thing is, his interview spoke to me as if it's coming from somebody who grew up poor, black, worked hard, became successful, saw the bullshit in Hollywood, dealt with it like a G, and now he's old, he doesn't give a fuck, so, he's just telling his truth, and that's what it seems like.
And it's funny, so I was scrolling down through the interview, trying to get content for our conversation, and I actually stopped somewhere. The gentleman who interviewed him said, "You hang out with these elite social circles, and doing good has always been important to you. But are you seeing as much concern for the poor as you'd like from the ultra rich?" And he responded, "No, the rich aren't doing enough. They don't fucking care. I came from the street, and I care about these kids who don't have enough because I feel I'm one of them. These other people don't know what it feels like to be poor, so they don't care." Mm-hmm. Then they went on to ask him, "Are we in a better place as a country than we were when you started doing humanitarian work 50 years ago?" He goes, "No, we're worse than we've been, but that's why we're seeing people trying to fix it. Feminism, women are saying they're not going to take it anymore. Racism, people are fighting it. God is pushing the bad in our face to make people fight back."
And sorry,
it's the truth.
And I'm reading. I suggest anybody read this interview, the stuff that the interviewer asked him what he thought about Oprah running for president, and he was like, he doesn't think she has it in her to do it. And at first blush, a lot of people be like, "Yo, what do you mean? Is it because she's black? Is it because she's a female?" He went on to say that no, he believes that if you have never been a governor of a state or a CEO or something like that, you probably won't be qualified to be president.
He's not wrong though.
And he's not wrong. And then I know a lot of you saying, well, Oprah runs her own company, right? There's a difference.
For all those people saying that, they better be the same person. They better be the same people who were supporting Romney.
Yeah. Or Trump.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, Trump
they're
ran
the same people. Because
yeah.
you also hear the same people who were against Romney and against Trump saying he never ran. He was never really like this political figure.
Yeah.
So if you're gonna have the same energy one way, have the same energy the other way.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't like Oprah. I didn't like her show. I think she's a great actress. But
that's a bold statement.
It is. But you know the funny thing.
It's very anti-Oprah segment.
But the funny thing about that is I can separate the difference between not really liking what she's done as opposed to admiring and appreciating everything that she is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? She gives me hope. You know what I mean? I didn't have I didn't have a terrible time growing up. I've had some really, really terrible times, but in a whole it wasn't terrible. Yeah. Oprah had a shit time growing up. Yeah. And she is one of the most powerful people, not women, one of the most powerful people in the world. So she literally came from almost nothing to become where she's at now. And for someone to not be able to appreciate and aspire to be where she's at, you'd have to be a hater, you'd have to be ignorant, or you'd have to be a damn fool to not appreciate what she's done. I can separate the two. That said, run for mayor first. Yeah. Run for governor first. Yeah. Become a politician in some ways. You know what I mean? Sure, she does a lot of humanitarian work. Sure, she runs her own company. But does that qualify her to be the leader of the free world?
And does she run her own company? And that's the thing that bothers me, because we associate famous people who, I don't want to take anything away from Oprah. Like, I like Oprah, right? This is not a derogatory statement towards her. But
the views of Old Man Wade do not reflect those of Supa Woke.
Exactly, right? You know, Oprah, that's future
mother-in-law?
Future mother, yeah, right? No. I have a wife and a beautiful mother-in-law.
Well, she don't have any kids.
Right.
She don't have any kids. It's just one of those like, hey, why can't you? Future
adopted mom. Sugar mama. But with that said, like, there's a difference between being the head of a company and running a company, right? Running a company means that you have to look at a lot of variables, right? You have to look at things. So you're selling something, and you notice that your sales are going down, right? You don't just go, okay, we need to make less of this or more of this to make up for these sales. You have to look at what's causing these sales to go down. You have to look at your customer base. You have to look at the environment in which your customers live in. You gotta make sure your investors are straight. There are a lot of variables. You can't just do one thing and expect it not to affect a million other things.
Yeah, the difference between like owning a company and like running it is actually hands-on, actually being there.
Exactly. And you can see this in, say, the way Trump is president, right? People say Trump, he the head of Trump, whatever, right? Of course, $1 billion company, of course he could run the country, right? But as you notice, he makes decisions without accounting for the complexity behind these decisions, right? He never had to, because he had other people doing that thing for him. But as president, nobody can really decide for you. Your decisions are final, right? You just
final.
Yeah, for the most part, to an extent. And I don't know anything about Oprah. She might be a great president, but nothing about her resume, and it's a public resume, indicates to me that she could become president. And I think that's what Quincy Jones was saying in a lot smaller words. Like, this guy, like, if the gems that he was saying, like the things that he was saying. So when the interviewer asked him about the Me Too movement, right? Like, do you really think that women had it hard in entertainment business? Like, is it true, these allegations? And he was like, yeah, women have to deal with a lot of fucked up shit. Period. Right? Like, just these. I would love to sit and have a conversation with this guy. And then at the end of the interview, he said, I stopped drinking for 2 years. I feel like I'm 19. And it really sounded like, again, some of the conspiracy stuff, take it with a grain of salt. But he did sound like a sober-minded person with a lot of knowledge and a lot of experience sharing gems with people, man. Like, read this interview, damn it.
Yeah, it's funny. All you have to do is type in Quincy Jones and then Quincy Jones Vulture, QuincyJonesVulture.com.
Yep.
It's a nice long interview. I actually also suggest, I should have said this to you prior, but Vulture actually did an interview with Erykah Badu as well.
Really? Yeah.
And she brought up something that's really kind of annoyed me when people just immediately start taking sides before the facts come out. And I know Kobe got in trouble for saying that. He was like, before he jumped on the Trayvon Martin thing, he goes, let's wait till the facts come out. You know what I mean? And he was like, so, and I was like, he's not wrong in a situation like that. Yeah. You know what I mean? And like once everything was, and I know he got a lot of criticism for that because Kobe's one of those guys who's quote unquote not black, and stuff like that. And also he should be looked at differently because of the alleged.
He's not black. He's Kobe.
Thankfully, he's never said anything like that. Like he's not. You know what I mean? But it was just, it was different. But I want to get into the question, finishes off with the question my buddy Dennis asked me about Black Panther. He goes, I was thinking, and since you have a wider platform than I was hoping you can answer either question or pose the question further. I firmly believe that Black Panther would get a different type of hype from fans if it were typical of the MCU. What I'm curious about, however, excuse me, in what ways the story itself is specifically unfold differently, given that difference. In other words, if it were made by the same old people, what could our film look like? Granted, it's not out yet, so it could be speculation based on trailers, but still. Speaking for myself, this is Dennis, I think I'd be very wary of how a film would turn out in that case, instead of looking forward to a proper representative film. But it could just as easily been written, produced, directed, etc. by others. How differently could that look?
I love that question. I really do.
Do you want to go first or you want me to go first?
Well, it's this one. It's your show.
The best way I can describe it was I look at what Brian Michael Bendis did for Luke Cage. Brian Michael Bendis is a white guy. Mm-hmm. And look what he did he created Jessica Jones. Yeah. Originally, he was going to use Jessica Drew's Spider-Woman as Jessica Jones. Yeah. But he created this strong female character. He's a white guy. Yeah. Doesn't know what it's like to be a woman at all. Mm-hmm. But he made this really great, strong character. Now let's move to what he did for Luke Cage. Luke Cage was a stereotype for the first 30 years of his conception. Mm-hmm. He was just some big black dude who was bulletproof. You know what I mean? Like he didn't really represent anything, or he was just kind of there. Mm-hmm. I mean, of course, he had a few really cool moments here, but they were few and far in between. He took Luke Cage from being a '70s character when Marvel was trying to jump on a blaxploitation dollar, mm-hmm. and turned him into a legitimate character. It wasn't a bunch of yo-yo-yos or anything like that. They just made him a character.
What up, John Turkey? This is the Black Panther.
Yeah, no shit like that. So he made Luke Cage a legitimate, strong character. And when they started it, he said, he goes, if I join the Avengers, I want to do things differently. Yeah. And he did. Bendis wrote him as a character who the Avengers had time off, and they showed up in some really shitty neighborhood and started kicking the drug dealers out, telling kids to go to school.
Heroes for Hire.
Yeah, mm-hmm. but it wasn't even just Heroes. But that's what Heroes for Hire was supposed to be. Yeah, you know what I mean. And he was he came up and he was just talking to the press, and he looked at Captain America put his hands up like, "This is your show," and let him do his thing. Then he took him and made him the leader of the Renegade Avengers. Yeah. And Luke Cage was the leader, and Hawkeye goes, "Well, you've been our leader this whole time." And he was just like, "I have." And he didn't need the accolades. He was just a leader by example. Yeah. And then when he actually was the leader of the Avengers, he was still just as strong. He was still just as vocal. He was still highly respected. They were villains, like Black Cat, for example. She goes, "I may not like Luke Cage, but he deserves a better villain than you." Talking to Diamondback. So
facts.
No, there wasn't even a shot. If I don't know if it was a shot at the movie, the TV series, excuse me. But this is again a white guy who has no idea what it's like to be black, who took this character and was passionate about. He was passionate about making this a legitimate character. If not for Bendis, we wouldn't have this Jessica Jones series. Luke Cage wouldn't be a Netflix series.
Yeah.
But because he cared about this character, and he cared about this project as much as he did, we now have that.
Mm-hmm. Well, I agree with all that. I think. Let me say first and foremost, this is a Marvel movie, so there were a lot of white people involved in the making of Black Panther.
Yeah.
Straight up, right? So this isn't like exclusive. So white supremacists of the world, don't be too butthurt. Some white people touch this film. Alright? A lot of white people touch this film.
A lot of white people touch this film. And like everyone goes, oh, it's an all black cast and there's an issue. I'm like, no. One of the crucial characters in the Black Panther mythos, would that be the right word for it? Was a guy Ross. He's he's a representative of the American government.
CIA attaché, I believe. Right?
Yeah, and he Black Panther respects everything that he is. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? And he had to earn said respect.
So here's the thing. So here's why I think that it was very important for at least the director and the screenwriter to be black. At least from my perspective. Luke Cage and Jessica Jones being handled by a white man, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Especially if he takes the care to handle these properties within the context that they deserve. And I think he did a pretty good job doing that. But you gotta understand, like, black people like Luke Cage, not with the powers, but black people like Luke Cage exist, right? There are plenty of narratives in our history that you can look at, right? A lot of strong African American people in real life that you can take as inspiration for a character like Luke Cage, right? Like when Luke Cage gets into his like freedom fighter moments, there's a lot of like Malcolm X, a lot of like, you know, there's a lot of hip hop. There's a lot in them, and these things exist. Jessica Jones as well. There's a lot of strong women. If people care to look at, you can find examples for Jessica Jones, right? As far as the Black Panther, T'Challa, Wakanda, that doesn't exist, right? A country like Wakanda, a king like T'Challa, that type of technology, that type of world was never allowed to exist. And something like that only appears in the imagination. So, I love comic books, you love comic books. That's clear. The reason why I love comic books is because they create a world. Like, I love the world building aspect of comic books, right? Like, it's not just these characters beating up each other, like their whole thought of universes that they exist in and they interact in, and they do all these things, and it creates like it creates like an aspirational thing in my head. Like, what would the world be like if there was a Captain America or whatever, right? And especially for the Black Panther, for me, I think about like what would the world have been like if a country like Wakanda existed, right? Would the civil rights movement be as hard? Would have had been as hard if there was a powerful country, right? With the best technology in the world, run by Africans, right? Black people. Would they have helped, right? Colonialism in Africa after World War II, would they have helped? Or if they didn't, and I think this is kind of listening to some of the reviews and actually reading the comic book Black Panther, it deals with some of this stuff. Like, you have this powerful African nation, right? Never affected by Western colonialism or racism. Never conquered, right?
We're the only country in the world to never be conquered.
And you can see that. Like, I hear a lot of art. I haven't read these articles, but I see the titles. Like, why are all the actors in Black Panther why do they all have natural hair? Like, why are all the women dark skinned? Right? All these questions is because like it's in the comic book, Wakanda is like an experiment of what the world would be like if it was never affected. You know what I mean? Like, and I think that having that, imagining that as a white person, is different than imagining that world as a black person.
It's like Lupe Fiasco has a song called. He has two songs. One of them's called All Black Everything, and the other one's called I Could Have Been. I Could Have Been was a song where he basically breaks down all the things he could have been, like I could be paralyzed, sipping on Gerber, and like stuff like that. Yeah. But All Black Everything, people won't be able, and I use this. I think this is a really great example of the different, like the Black Panther movie. Yeah. And also the Dear White People. Some people can't get past the title to actually read or watch something that could help. Yeah. I always say to people when they go, "Oh, the Dear Black People was so racist," I'm like, "You didn't watch the show, did you?" Because Dear White People, that show, the show on Netflix, was more about. I took that more as like me taking a look at myself. Like, you know what I mean? You have the mixed racial girl who wants to be pro black, but her black friends are like, well, you have a white boyfriend and you have a white parent. So how do we listen to you? Then you have the insecure dark skinned woman who's always getting shit on because she's a dark skinned woman. Yeah. And to my wife's point, one of the hardest things, if not the hardest thing in the world to do, is be a dark skinned black woman. Yep. So they can't get past that title to actually understand that this isn't about you, this is about us. You get Lupe Fiasco's song All Black Everything, where he talked about this whole thing, like what would happen if they took Africans, brought them over here, and we were treated as equals. We were paid for our work. And it was like this beautiful idea of like, one line I love, everybody's rapping like crack never happened. Yeah. No hoods to attack him. He goes, matter of fact, there's no hoods to attack him. Somalia is a great place to vacation. And he was like, Martin Luther King died as an old man. George W. Bush read a verse from the Quran. And I was like, this is so fucking dope. But like, some people won't get past the title of All Black Everything. Yeah. To realize, at the end of the things, we close our eyes. We know color lines. We close our eyes, and it's all black everything. So you close your eyes. It has nothing to do with skin color. It's just a matter of us closing our eyes and imagining all this stuff, like what could be if we got over ourselves and did something different. And I think, it's funny because people hear Black Panther and all they think is the Black Panther movement and how they were racist. And I constantly tell people, no, the Black Panther movement was not racist. And it was like and these dumb fucking people are going, well, it's okay for black people to go see a movie called Black Panther, but it's not okay for Trump to go to a KKK rally. I'm like, you're missing the point between a fictional character and an actual thing.
And that's the thing, and I think that's why it's important for this vision to come from a black person, right? Because I think, and I don't want to speak generally, but I think it's going to be hard for a white person, right, to imagine imagine a place like Wakanda, right, a powerful black nation, without there being some type of antagonistic relationship between like that nation and like the wider world, right? Like there would have to be. I feel like the route they would take would be like Wakanda is a response to like white supremacy or something like that, right? Yeah. Like it's an antagonistic relationship. Like it would come from a good place, but I feel like that's the route that they most likely would take. Whereas opposed to, I think, somebody like Lupe Fiasco, right? Or I feel like any black person that really dives into the history of the world, right? You're gonna come to these little points in history where a decision was made that totally fucked us over as a people, right? Yeah. It could have been either way, like a coin toss. It could have gone either way, right? If Abraham Lincoln wasn't assassinated, if his vice president decided to implement what he wanted to implement, that could have helped black people during Reconstruction, instead of take away all the gains that we took out, that we fought for during the Civil War, right? That turned into Jim Crow, that turned into lynchings and all this other stuff, right? Like there was these moments in time where you probably could have seen a powerful black people assert themselves in the world as equals, right? But every step of the way, due to racism and the belief that black people couldn't govern themselves. Like, it wasn't even like black people are evil or whatever. Like, the most pervasive, the thing that kept black people, especially in the African continent, from getting the shackles of colonialism off of them was the belief that a lot of white people in power at the time thought that black people, people of African descent, didn't have the brain capacity to govern themselves, right? So all these decisions, like, you just needed one person to think differently, and then you could have had a place.
But like,
you know, and sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, I was just gonna ask you, just gonna go to your point. I'm sorry to cut you off.
No, it's alright.
But you're right, man. Like, it's funny how close it is to like where it really is just a coin flip. Like, what would happen if this would happen instead of this, and how the momentum could have gone down, and we all could have like we wouldn't even be having this conversation right now. You know what I mean? We could have been talking about how great Black Panther is without the implications of how important it is. You know what I mean? It could just be another movie that everyone as a people love. Like, you know what I mean?
Every white, black, Spanish, everybody.
Like imagine a world where like racism and sexism was never a thing. Like, you know what I mean? So it's just funny how like the flip of a coin, as you said, can cause all of these all this stuff to happen. I'm gonna pause. I'm gonna stop us right here just because this is a whole other conversation that I think we can have, and I'll bring some people on. Actually, this would be a great conversation for the ladies' lounge, to discuss like, you know,
I might sneak in on that one.
the views of Old Man Wade. Nah, but thanks Supa Woke for coming in here again.
Thank you for having me.
As always, man, hey, you a co-host. If I'm recording, you're welcome. All right, you know what I want to hear?
Vaccinate your kids? No, I'm messing with you.
Damn it, Wade!